Hello! If you are watching this one after my fractions one, you'll be pleased to know I am in a slightly better mood than I was when I did my fractions one. I've been out for a walk in the 11-foot deep snow with my boys and feel like I've actually done a HIIT workout. But I actually do feel better for it with my rosy cheeks and my rosy nose. So we are entering our second in the series of P1 help and tips and advice, and today, as promised yesterday, I'm going to focus on literacy and things that you can do to help your child. So the first thing that I want to say is it's an extremely common thing to do. I think all parents are guilty of it to an extent, is you really can't compare your child to its siblings or its classmates, because your child is on their own path. Your child is doing it their way in their own time, and they are doing just fine. So that's the first thing. I will share with you a story that will hopefully make you giggle when you hear it. We all have our own little hang-ups about how good we think our child is at something, or how worried we are that they're not as good at something as someone else's child. And I just want to reassure you, everyone is all on their own path, and what you're doing with your child and what your child can do is absolutely fine. Okay, it's absolutely fine. Teams, if you're using Teams, can bring out quite a lot of anxiety for children and for parents. There will be children who are firing in work. There will be projects that are done that sometimes are clearly the parents have done the project, but it does sort of tap into a nervousness and an anxiety in us that we think, well, my child can't do that, my child can't do this, and then we start to worry. But we're all on the same path, and that is all that matters. Okay, the story I want to share with you is last year when my son was in primary 4, they had to upload lots of pictures. They don't do it so much now. I prefer the way they do it, where if they want to share their learning, it goes into a separate channel. But we were all learning and everything went on, and everyone was so excited to share the stuff they'd done. And their topic was Titanic, which is an awesome topic, and it just breaks my heart they didn't really actually get to do it properly. But I remember someone it seemed to me like they'd made a life-size replica of the Titanic out of toilet paper rolls, and it was just enough to, it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me that day, because I don't think I'd actually managed to get my son to do 3 sums, and I just thought, whoa! So you can't compare your child to anyone else. Tempting as it is, and we have all done it, try not to, because they're doing just fine the way they're doing it. Okay, so literacy. Chatted a little bit yesterday about how there are so many amazing books out there that your children can be looking at, and you can read to them. Now, let me just tell you about the benefits of a child looking at a book that they might not even be able to understand or read themselves. They get a lot of what we call contextual clues. That means they start to learn to take from the pictures clues about what the story might be about. There might be words that they can decode. There might be no words they can decode, but they're creating in their mind a story to do that goes along with the pictures, and that's a huge skill in itself. So having children look at books and having access to books is a huge thing too. People say, so after a certain age, children don't need to be read to. I totally disagree. I think as long as your child is happy to be read to, then read to them. Studies have shown that the benefits of reading to your children show that those children will have a better vocabulary, maybe more imagination, find it easier to write stories because they have been exposed to different stories hearing them. It also broadens their horizons, allows them a better understanding of the world, allows them to make connections to things. And these are all skills that you can help them with without them even realizing when you're reading to them. So, for example, when you're reading to your child, you can say things that are the precursor to comprehension questions, basically. Things like, how do you think Sammy the rabbit would feel? How would you feel if that was you? What would you do in that situation? Oh, who do you think will come round the corner next? And where do you think they'll go? Those are all sort of questions that you are going to you can ask them and they're going to have to think and they give you their answer. Now, as I say, that's the first step to comprehension, because when they go up to school, those type of questions will be asked and they need to be able to find the answer in the text. So if they're kind of used to talking through a story, it becomes a little bit more of an easier skill for them to do. So that's something you can do when you're reading with them. I wanted to touch on phonics now. Just in case anybody doesn't know, phonics is how we teach our children their letter sounds, and we teach them the individual sounds like a, b, k, and then we also then teach them blends like sh and ch, oo and e, fl and bl, etc. and on and on. And the idea is that they begin to be able to build and spell using those blends, and they begin to be able to decode words and reading using those sounds. So for example, if you were trying to get them to spell sheep, you would sound it out as sh, e, p, and that would help them to spell it rather than doing s-h-e-e-p. Okay, so that's what phonics is. That's what they have been learning. Usually 2 sounds a week they've been learning so far in primary 1. And there are lots of fun ways that you can practice doing that with them. There's a great program called Alpha Blocks. And if you just Google them or put it into YouTube, they're about 7 or 8 minutes long. And they pick a different couple of blends per episode and make different words with them. And it's just quite a fun thing. They can be watching it. You can watch it with them, ask them to think of different words. It's fun and they don't realise that they're learning. So that's just a little fun thing that you might be able to do with them. And it's also something, maybe if you had to make an important call, you could put on a couple of those episodes and they could, you know that they're actually learning something, but it's also fun for them. It's nice and colourful and bright and it helps them. Okay, another little tip is it's a long time since some of us were in school. For some of us, longer than others, but obviously one thing that can really help your children is if you, when you're speaking to them or helping them decode a word or helping them to spell a word, is if you use the phonetic sound yourself. So they don't know necessarily yet that C-A-T spells cat. They will know that K-A-T spells cat. So that's something to be aware of as a parent, that if you are helping them sound out words or helping them write words, try very hard to use those phonetic sounds. Rather than the letter name, we're using the letter sound, and that all helps them to build up their ability to spell bigger words. And when they know all their phonic sounds and all their blends, they should be able to spell various 3, 4, 5 letter words from using them. So that's the skill that we want to develop. So that's just a little tip for parents, that if you are spelling with them, try very hard to use the phonetic sounds with them. And similarly, if you're writing, try to always use the lowercase letters rather than capital letters, because it's the lowercase ones that they will be using if they're ever writing and practicing. And sometimes what they'll learn is that the sound for a small a, but that a capital is an A sound. So if you try to just write with them in lowercase letters, that also helps avoid any confusion with what they're learning at school as well. And as I say, if you watch wee alpha blocks and little things like that, it's really fun for them. And if you ask them to teach you how to do certain sounds as well, they love things like that. Most kids love being the teacher and telling parents what to do, in my experience anyway. So one way, a lot of people ask me, how can I get them to practice writing their letters? And I would say you don't necessarily need to have them writing their letter with a pencil or a pen. There are other ways that they can practice. And remember, we talked about yesterday the fine motor skills. This is where the fine motor skills comes in as well. So there's lots of things that they can do with their letters. They can practice them using, if you can bear it, some people don't like this sort of thing, but you could put shaving foam on a tray and get them to write the letters in the shaving foam. You could get them to write it in maybe a tray of sand, so they're tracing the letters in the sand. They're still making the letters, but it makes it a little bit more fun for them, and they're not having to faff about with pencil grip, because a lot of kids find pencil grip really difficult in P1. And this just takes that pressure off them. They could write it on your back and get you to guess what letter it is they've written. And or write it on a whiteboard, write it in the snow. Goodness knows we have enough of it at the moment. So there's lots of different ways that you can practice your letters as well. It doesn't have to be pen to paper is what I'm saying. One of my last things I wanted to say is some people, say to primary one teachers, I don't think my child necessarily knows that word. I think they have just remembered it. Or they have looked at the picture and they look at the first letter of the word and then they make an educated guess, basically, or they make a lucky guess. So one of the things I just wanted to say is you can help them by using those phonic sounds, and I will upload a sheet with a copy of all the phonic sounds on it. You can help them by giving them those strategies to sound it out. So, for example, if they see the word ship and they're really struggling with it, instead of you saying, what do you think it is, or what letter is that, because that's not going to help them, because they'll say s, h, I, p, and then they can't. A lot of children can't then get that s, h, I, p spells ship. So a way that you can help them is to say sh, I, p, sh, I, p, sh, I, p, ship. So you're kind of doing it slowly for them at first and letting them sound it out with the sounds they know, or pointing out a sound they might know already and helping them. That's a strategy that will help them decode words rather than just remember them. So I wanted to finish off by saying, to recap basically, they don't need to be plodding through Biff, Chip and Kipper books. They do them at school because that is how they learn and they're phonetically written. But try with some different, more exciting stories maybe with them. And don't underestimate the power of reading to your child. And try and foster that love of reading for them, and try not to make it too much of a chore. And I say that from experience because I sometimes think it would be easier to trek to Antarctica than to get my primary 5 to read sometimes. So I'm not preaching here. I'm just trying to give some tips on it. Okay, so enjoy, have fun, and I will see you soon. And tomorrow we're going to talk about numeracy strategies. Okay, bye for now.